The lofted bend feature is a useful feature for creating both geometry that would be otherwise very difficult to create with different base flanges as well as the other features, as well as geometry that probably wouldn't be possible with any of the other features. So to start, I'm going to create two sketches for the loft. And I'll go ahead and just give this a dimension. I'll drag off another plane parallel, say 4 inches off. And then I'm going to draw a corner rectangle on that second plane. Now typically if we were doing this with the lofted feature, we just have to select out the two profiles and this would work fine. But with sheet metal parts, just like a base flange or several of the other features, the sketch has to contain a single contour for us to be able to create the lofted bend. So we'll have to modify this sketch slightly. I'm going to go ahead and quickly trim out a small portion of this sketch. And it doesn't really matter what you trim out as long as you leave a gap in the profile. It's generally better if you create dimensions and center this, as this will line up better with the other profile as well. So as I was saying, if we gave this dimension so this was symmetric on both sides, the lofted bend would be symmetric when we lofted it. In this case, I'm just demonstrating the use of the tool, so it doesn't matter too much. And you'll see if I click on this, it says all sketch entities need smooth connections. So for the lofted bends tool, you're going to need to fillet out any corners. And then we'll be able to loft up the profile. And we can go ahead and flatten this out, and that'll give us our flat pattern. That's generally how you use the lofted bend feature. I'm going to go ahead and create a new part here and talk about several of the limitations of the lofted bends. So once again, I'll create an extra plane parallel and draw in two profiles. And I'll go ahead and draw in a bottomless trapezoid. Just use the mirror tool to mirror that over. And then I'll draw in a second profile on the plane 1. And I'll draw it slightly inside of that first profile. And once again mirror these over. And lastly, I'll need fillets for both of these profiles. Once again, now we have two open profiles. So if we choose the lofted bends, we'll be able to create this feature. So one benefit here is that this geometry wouldn't necessarily be easy to create with the other features. It is possible, but it would take a few more steps. But one thing to keep in mind with the lofted bends is that you'll notice if I select this face, I can create a sketch as this is a flat face. But you'll notice there's no edges on the other two faces. And so I won't be able to add sketches to these faces. So you'll want to keep that in mind if you're going to need to create a sketch on either of those faces or any of the faces that you're working with. Another option, of course, is just unfolding this if you need to create any cuts on those faces. You also notice if I flatten this out, I don't have any bend lines. As well as if I flatten this part out, I once again don't have any bend lines. I'm going to go ahead and delete out the lofted bend, create another sketch on plane 1. I'll go ahead and right click one of those lines, select the chain, and just convert that over. And then from there I'll create a lofted bend. Now you'll notice that we have edges at each of these faces, and you can see a uniform radius throughout this bend, as well as the ability to create sketches on each of these faces. And if I flatten this out, you'll see those bend lines. So if we do create uniform geometry like this, it's going to bend up just like any other sheet metal part and create the same flat pattern. But keep that in mind when working with the lofted bends. The subsequent videos in this section will cover a few more complex geometries using the lofted bends.